for all of us. It's about predicting where the consumer is going and getting half of it right.
One of the things we want to do is create ads that don't suck.
Embracing change creates great possibility.
I'm Alan Hart, and this is Marketing Today. Today on the show, I've got Dave Yovanno. He's the CEO of Impact. Impact is a company operating in the partnership economy. And today, Dave and I discuss what that is, as well as kind of where they fit in this broader martech, adtech landscape. We talk a little bit about partnerships and the types of partnerships that are out there that are being used as successful, like one between Ticketmaster and Spotify, as well as others by BarkBox and pet shelters. So large discussion here about all different types of partnerships and how they can actually drive revenue for all types of companies. Potentially it's an underutilized lever, if you will, especially by marketers. It tends to be run by a business development function. And through the discussion today with Dave, I kind of opened my eyes to maybe we're missing something on our radar that we should be looking at. These trusted referral networks, if you will. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with Dave. Dave, would you mind introducing yourself?
My name is Dave Yovanno. I'm the CEO of Impact.
Well, Dave, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Alan. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, let's get started. We got a lot to talk about, but I always like to know a little bit about where people started in life and where you started your career. I know you've got a Navy stint working for a hospital system and a healthcare background. And now you're in technology and marketing technology.
That's right. Yeah, I can just give you the quick background. I was in technology project management with a hospital healthcare system, Southern California, right out of college. That was pre-internet. That was the mid-90s. I graduated college and started some IT project management work. And the Navy called me up after college and asked me to serve some active duty time. It was an odd time with the military back then. They were downsizing from Desert Shield, Desert Storm. So they kind of didn't know if they really needed you, if they wanted you. So they kind of let me graduate college and then called me up, served just a short tour as a lieutenant and chief information officer for a naval hospital, actually, in Bremerton in the Seattle area. And then the internet really just started to kind of take off, obviously, in the late 90s. The first company I joined in the internet tech space was a company by the name of ValueClick. They later rebranded to Conversant. So I joined them in 99, just before they went public, helped build up their media and tech business over the course of almost 9 years initially. I think we were 20 or so million in revenue, just about to go public when I joined. Really helped lead a number of initiatives and teams. I was the chief operating officer ultimately for the media businesses. We had driven it up to like 700 or so million in revenue, over 1,000 people in that part of the business. And I think it was 2008, the housing market, so the other macroeconomic factors were coming into play. So the economy kind of crashed a little bit, put a lot of pressure on big public companies. And it was at such a pivotal time in the ad tech, martech space, because it was, we were kind of developing plans for what became the DSPs and the DMPs, and there was just not a whole lot of appetite for R&D investment like that in a big public company going through a rough macroeconomic conditions. So I went back to the startup sort of space, joined a company called Gigya, social technology space. I helped them pivot from an ad model to a SaaS model. Had a lot of fun with that for a few years, and then actually returned to Conversant once the market picked back up. They were ready to deploy a war chest, more M&A. So I joined to kind of help acquire a few more companies, finally integrate a lot of the technologies. We ultimately got a deal on the table with Alliance Data Systems. They acquired Conversant. And then right at that time, an opportunity to run Marin Software came up. I'm kind of a glutton for punishment. I love difficult tasks. They were burning a lot of cash, needed a whole technology rewrite. So got them, kind of on the right path. I made a personal decision that my oldest, I was commuting and traveling a lot. I was actually commuting full time from LA to San Francisco for 8 years. And my daughter was about to graduate high school and said, I think I need to spend a little bit more time at home. So pulled back to LA full time, reconnected with the founders at Impact, who I coincidentally had a chance to meet about 16 years ago when Conversant acquired their first company, Commission Junction, and just reconnected with the team there, fell in love with what Impact was up to. It seemed like a good fit for what they needed, just in terms of more organizational expertise and ability to kind of scale what they had started. So I've been having a lot of fun with the Impact team for the last 2+ years now.
Well, Dave, you spent a number of years in adtech and martech already, and going back and forth from a couple of different companies. But I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on this current state of the industry? There's a lot of technology out there. It seems like there's increasing, there's regulatory on the horizon, and things like GDPR. Just curious if any of that. What's your view as somebody that's kind of been an insider? What's the view of the industry today?
I would say that the traditional ad tech, martech space is definitely challenged today relative to, let's say, 10 years ago. I think the ad network models and whatnot, those were kind of at their height probably in the 2005, 2006 timeframe. I'd just maybe make a couple points about my observation on the industry today. I'd say trust is still missing across the board. There's issues still around fraud and transparency. I think it's amazing to me that brands still don't know exactly what's going on within their campaigns. They don't have access to all of the tracking and intelligence data that they need to understand whether or not their marketing events, their impressions or clicks are actually driving incremental results. And then when you see the emerging spaces, CTV, OTT, fraud is even more of an issue kind of in these more emerging channels. So, I think just trust, I would just kind of put that in one category across the board, is getting harder. I think the bad actors, the people that are causing fraud, have gotten very sophisticated. It's kind of hard to tell whether or not you're placing ads or buying media from something that's real. There's big money in advertising, so people have found ways to take advantage of that. Essentially, I'd say another observation is consolidation is accelerating. All the new money is going to two companies, Facebook, Google. So it's like 90% of all mobile advertising is with that duopoly now. I think Amazon is starting to come on the scene. But it's still a Facebook, Google world. You have more and more concentration. That's where people are spending their time on the Google, Facebook products. I think both those companies have done a great job in building up their own tech stacks, how they're using data, but they're not. Back to my first point, being very transparent. I think with measurement and how things are being targeted, you're just kind of trusting them. And again, that goes back to my first point where trust is missing because they're really not transparent with it. So that consolidation that's happening is making it difficult, I think, for the broader ad tech, martech landscape where there used to be thousands and thousands of people involved. And you've got a lot of consolidation on just a few. And I think just the effective use of holistic customer data is, especially for ad targeting, it's gotten more challenging. It's everything having to do with GDPR and what you can and can't track, and iOS and Safari have their own tracking challenges. There's been a huge rise of like third-party data, and data has grown to be just very noisy, I think, over the last number of years. It's like I still see, for people who are still using cookies to target that way, I'm still seeing in my browser, I'm identified as both a male and a female. And so there's just a lot of noise. And I think the regulation type tactics that have happened have made that even more difficult. But just overall, I think effectiveness of traditional ad tech, martech is declining. We're still seeing too many ads per day. It's like, they're just trying to lower the rate and just show more of them. And hopefully some of them cut through and we can track it and try to attribute it back to, somebody that bought or sold an ad. But yeah, it's not a fun place to be. Loved helping to build that part of the industry, a number of years ago, but it's definitely gotten more challenging.
Got it. Well, now Impact, you guys are a player in, I think, what you referred to as the partnership economy. So maybe tell us a little bit about what that is and how where do you place it? Because it's not, it's not sales automation. It's not, I don't think it's necessarily marketing automation in the traditional sense. So maybe describe the partnership economy and kind of where you guys sit.
Yeah, I think when we talk about the partnership economy, I think it really starts with embracing a vision that there's this untapped growth potential in forming alliances and partnerships with businesses, individuals who have this existing trusted relationship with a customer that you want to acquire, essentially. And what you're doing is you're forming an alliance with that business or individual that essentially results in them referring a customer to you. So this is not traditional sales or marketing tactics, and that's why we kind of call it out as its own category or its own economy that's essentially evolving. And I think what's interesting in this new world is that the customer experience tends to be more authentic and native. So again, it's not a traditional sales or marketing tactic. So for example, Ticketmaster uses the Impact platform to contract directly with Spotify as a partner. And in the Spotify experience, a person is listening to an artist and they can tap and see that artist's concert tour. They can tap on an event. And it's Impact's technology that will then enable a deep link from the Spotify app to the Ticketmaster app. And if that person buys a ticket, Impact's platform is going to attribute credit for that sale of that ticket back to Spotify as the partner. And then Impact will also fulfill a commission payment from Ticketmaster to Spotify. So this is an example of a software integration partnership. And you can see the native and enhanced experience for the person that kind of alliance or partnership that just makes sense. And Ticketmaster has other business development partnerships with companies like American Express, where you can use your Amex points to buy tickets. They've got partnerships with YouTube and other companies like that. So this is not your traditional sales or marketing sort of practice. And we're seeing all kinds of emerging partnerships happening on the Impact platform. We're seeing strategic business development partnerships, like I just mentioned. We've got corporate social responsibility, charity partnerships, mobile apps. Influencers are a big one. I think influencers almost on their own has kind of caused this rise to kind of get away from traditional advertising and partner with somebody who could be an advocate for your brand and get them on your team and get them to refer customers to buy your products. We're seeing premium publishers just organically sign on to the Impact platform. This is the Meredith group of known publisher brands, Hearst, et cetera. They're signing in and they're exploring partnerships on our platform that they can work with directly and innovate more native ways to refer customers to those types of businesses. So you can just see, like in this one example, that partnerships are more like business development, really, in my mind. It's less like traditional sales or marketing channels and more like business development. And I think the reason why we're elevating this to, hey, this really needs to be treated as its own category for growth for the enterprise is that that's what's happening on our platform today. Our most mature clients are relying on partnerships to drive more than 25% of their total revenue mix. And as a channel, it's growing like 50+%. We had Lenovo on stage at our last customer event last year talking about those exact stats and talking about their unboxers on YouTube, talking about the Lenovo products and referring them to Lenovo for a sale. And just to kind of give you a sense of the scale on the Impact platform, just so you understand, I mean, we're managing about $25 billion a year in e-commerce sales on the Impact platform. And we also manage payouts to our clients' partners on their behalf. And we're paying out more than $1 billion a year to their partners.
Wow. That's a lot of transaction volume.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's tons of partnerships. You mentioned a lot of different ones there. How are you advising or thinking about your customers and how should they get the most out of those partnerships? Like, what are the top things in your mind?
I think it starts with embracing a bigger vision around partnerships. I think digitally partnerships started in traditional affiliate, and I define that as like the cashback coupon email type partners, but it's expanded well beyond that to include the ones I mentioned: influencers, traditional publishers, these business development deals, software integrations, the social responsibility sort of partnerships, ambassadors. There's all these different types. And the reality of it is that these partnerships kind of exist already. They've existed for a long time, typically inside different organizations, but they're in siloed, fragmented teams or groups, right? There's a couple guys over here doing business development. And, maybe the influencer team is different from a traditional affiliate team, or someone's got some deal working with some software integration. I think it really starts with leaders of an organization to realize that they need to kind of manage partnerships in the same way that they're managing their sales and marketing channels and teams. So I look at three things: people, process, and technology, right? Just to make a simple example. So when you think about sales people, right, most organizations have a sizable sales organization. There's a head of sales. And then from a process standpoint, they're broken out by territory, maybe vertical assignment. They've got quotas, they've got goals, they've got pipeline management, they've got an aggressive push to the end of a quarter. Do you manage your partnerships team in that same way? Probably not. And you look at marketing, most organizations have a head of marketing, a CMO. They've got a marketing team. They're, from a process standpoint, they're running nowadays account-based marketing and selling campaigns, demand gen campaigns. They're doing events. They're tied to metrics that fill top of funnel, typically for the sales organization. Again, do you manage your partnerships team in that same way? And then when you look at the technology component of all these things, technology for sales has provided a lot of automation. A lot of companies use Salesforce. We use Salesforce for Salesforce automation, and that helps us manage everything and scale everything. Same thing with marketing, right? Most marketing organizations are using a number of marketing automation technologies, whether it's Marketo or HubSpot or Engagio, Visible, others. What exists there to help scale and automate partnerships? And that's the gap that we feel that Impact is largely filling, essentially. With our partnership cloud, we're providing partnership automation to the most mature enterprises who are embracing this opportunity around partnerships as we see it, meaning getting all your partnership opportunities together onto a single platform and rely on this platform to help you contract directly with these partners globally. So our platform is working in local languages. We're paying out in over 80 local currencies. It serves as a system of record for the tracking and attribution back to the partner and what their attributed value is, so that you're commissioning effectively based on what's generating incremental and real results for your business. We also fulfill the payment processing to partners, again, globally. And then we've added additional components. We've acquired a number of businesses over the years. We acquired MediaRails most recently, about 6 months ago, and that is an application that helps our clients discover new partners. So it's an incredible discovery engine, like influencers, apps, small businesses. It's got automation on how to recruit them in, similar to like a HubSpot experience. We've acquired Clear Sailing from eBay when they broke up from PayPal. That's given us more capabilities around the intelligence and the insights that are required to understand attributed value of partnerships. And we've acquired Forensic. They've been a market leader for a long time in fraud. And as enterprises start to work with different types of partners, fraud becomes a bigger challenge to solve for. So we've acquired a market leader in using machine learning and other AI techniques to really, be able to detect what's real and what's not, essentially. So those are examples of how we're addressing the automation around partnerships.
That's great. That's great. Well, and one of the things that makes these partnerships go are the incentives, right? The actual payments that you talked about earlier. Those can be tricky, as you know. I mean, if you manage sales and people in general, it's compensation is always a tricky issue. Are there any thoughts you can share on what you've seen work, or how you advise new people to the platform and how to think about that, or what you see is the most common today? I don't know how you want to tackle that, but just curious insights around it.
Yeah, I mean, what I think about is it's a paradigm shift in thinking. I think when we talk about like incentivizing traditional advertising, everyone's dealing with standard ad formats. It's an effective CPM and they're just trying to get the most yield, but nobody's talking to anybody. You've got 20 people in the middle all trying to optimize something and take a cut. The world of partnerships is a complete paradigm shift. And one of the fundamental things that Impact did 10 years ago when it launched our first product, Radius, is that we enabled a direct partnership between the enterprise and the partner. So gone are all the middlemen, essentially. There are no intermediaries or networks that are making decisions for them. And just that one concept, I think, was transformational to how things could be. I sat across from Lenovo when I first joined the company a couple of years ago at lunch, and the person that runs the partnerships on their side was just telling me these stories about how they finally get to work directly with partners, and they're coming up with like really innovative ways to refer business to Lenovo. Like these are, again, it's more native. These aren't like traditional ads. And so I would just say that beyond like incentives and optimizing and this, that, and the other, I think just having an open discussion and workshop session with your partner to figure out, hey, we think our brands align really well. How can we come up with an effective way to get you to refer a customer to me? And so our conversations are like, I was meeting with a financial services company that sells like 401k and other products, and we're talking about what would be good partnerships for them potentially. And they started to talk about, companies in the gig economy, for example, where they don't have a traditional retirement draw on their paycheck. Like that kind of partnership makes sense. They want to form an alliance, a partnership where they're finding a unique way to get that gig economy sort of company to refer customers essentially to this financial planning enterprise. And that's probably the number one thing I would say, is that work directly with your partners, create numeration that makes sense, drives value for both parties. And I've been very surprised to see the innovation that has happened just in working directly.
Got it. Well, you talked about Ticketmaster and Spotify as one example earlier. Are there other examples that you could share around how partnerships are taking place on the platform?
Yeah, we have a number of really interesting cases of partnerships that are starting to blossom on the Impact platform. We have a case study with BarkBox, and they tell the story of when they first signed with Impact. It was traditional affiliate, the cashback coupon, email type partners. And as they learned and embraced our broader vision around partnerships, they started to extend their partnership remit to include some innovative partnerships, for example, pet shelters. So BarkBox has had an inside business development team that has been calling on thousands of pet shelters across the U.S., basically saying, we'd like to donate to your pet shelter. We'll mail you a box of postcards, just hand them out to new pet owners. And if we sign a new customer from your referral, we'll donate $25 to your pet shelter. They've extended that strategy to veterinarian clinics, to dog walkers. We have mattress companies that are selling direct to consumer, who are getting chiropractors to refer them mattress sales. There's a large hospitality marketplace company that will have a placard on the coffee table when you're staying as a guest at the host's house, and says you're sleeping on this kind of mattress. If you like it, use this code and get a discount. And so the host is earning a commission on referring mattress sales when somebody stays at their place. I mean, we have so many interesting examples like that are just kind of happening organically on the platform. And we're also seeing the traditional business development partnerships that have been operated in a different group. Like we've got large travel companies that partner with each other. So one is a hospitality stay company that will partner with an airline. And they've had a couple of people that have had a biz dev deal in place for years, but they're starting to move the contracting, the tracking, the understanding of value of these partnerships to the Impact platform. And so we're seeing some consolidation of all these different partner types kind of come onto our platform. So we've seen, Airbnb and Delta, for example, partner up that way. Airbnb and Qantas have partnered up that way. It's just very interesting innovation happening along those lines.
Yeah, no, those are great examples and things you think about naturally happen, but to your point about like managing that can be a nightmare if you don't have the technology and the processes to do it.
Sure, we have a large,
especially at scale.
Yeah, another good example so that you understand like the native experience or improving the customer experience. We have a very large consumer tech company, global tech company that's partnered with banks internationally. And so if you're a banking customer, you're signing in to pay your bills or check your account balance, and the bank will say, thank you for being a loyal customer. We have a partnership with this consumer tech company. Go through the shopping experience and you're going to get a discount. Thank you for being a customer. That's just kind of another good example.
Yeah, no, that's great. Those are great. Well, I appreciate you talking to me about impact and the partnership, economy, and how people can drive more revenue through that. I love to get to know the individual even a little bit better on these interviews. And this question I love asking people is there an experience of your past that defines or makes up who you are today?
A specific experience? Um,
Yeah, it could be a specific experience, or it could be, a trend of experiences or something.
I would just say that I grew up in the Midwest, working
Yeah,
class
yeah.
family. Had a job as far as I can remember back, paper route all the way through to as a waiter for the longest time, both in high school and college. I'd say that probably the single interesting characteristic about just how I came up is just hardworking. I think I learned that from my parents. Maybe it was growing up in Cleveland, Ohio, but it's also part of that God-fearing Catholic religion. You're respecting authority and all that stuff. So I don't know if that's common or not, but I just always remember just working very hard and not feeling like proud or good about myself unless I was working hard, earning money, not because I was trying to buy something. I just felt like that was something I needed to do. And then from there, graduating high school and into the military, I think that was a tremendous influence on my professional life, even today. Again, it was kind of like phase two of that discipline of hard work, attention to detail, how large organizations and structure works. And again, maybe less God fearing there, but you're authority
Right.
fearing. It was kind of the experience, I guess, in the military. So just kind of respect for, structure and authority, if you will. And one of the things I really loved about the military experience was just all different types of people. It was amazing. It was right out of high school. I went to boot camp in San Diego, and you're with a company of 100 people. It's everybody from every walk of life. And I'll never forget my first morning. They wake you up, and they ran through a couple questions, and about 10 of us ultimately wound up stepping forward, and they handed me a sword, and they said, "You're in charge." And so I was the recruit chief petty officer for 2 months, and it was my job to make sure everybody got to where they needed to be on time. And you're dealing with personnel issues, people who wanted to commit
Wow.
suicide. And so you grow up like very quick in environments like that and know how to deal with complex situations. So, I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. And then into college, they put you through the officer training program. You start to learn more techniques about leadership. And then when I was a lieutenant, 20 something years old, early 20s, and I'm now leading a team of 30 people who are 20 years experience in the military. It's like, how does that work? Just because I have a college education, all of a sudden I'm the boss.
Right.
And so you just learn pretty quickly, but you develop a deep sense of what motivates people, what upsets people, how to connect people. And of course, being a parent teaches you a lot of those same things, how to deal with a lot of those same challenges, but from a different perspective. So I think the
Yeah.
military overall had a tremendous influence on my life. And then just maybe finally just competitive sports. I look for this when I'm hiring people as well. I played football growing up. All through high school and college, I played flag football. My college didn't have an official football team, but if they did, I probably would have. In other sports, I love ocean sports nowadays, especially on the weekends. So I stay very, very active. But I like the competitive sense of things. There's a scoreboard.
Mm.
You're in the foxhole with your teammates, and you've got the competitive sport and action, but then you've got the fun that happens afterwards, whether you're winning or losing. It's the camaraderie, I think, that probably drives me most in pretty much everything that I do. But it's all built on accomplishing something.
Got it. Well, that military path that you described, it sounded like you enlisted after high school and then went
Mhm.
back to college and
Mhm.
came out as an officer.
Mhm.
That's a unique path I haven't heard very often. Did that give you more insight into coming out from college and being an officer? It sound in your description, it sounded like you had a sense of humility that you might not have had if you hadn't started as an enlisted person.
Yeah, absolutely. It was it's a very special program. It's called Boost. Was the program that I went through. Stands for Broaden Opportunity for Officer Selection and Training, and it's actually a program. I was just trying to find any way I could to fund a scholarship to college, and somehow I came across this program, and it's actually a program that's designed for minorities. I was the token white minority in this
Right.
program. Everybody else was from a very different ethnic background. A lot of inner city children that didn't have the same opportunities that a lot of most people have. The military kind of provides a prep path for them to get to college, essentially.
Mm.
It was definitely a unique path for anyone. But the deal was you had to enlist for a year boot camp. You're enlisted for a year, and if you made it through this program, then you got your ROTC scholarship to college. Not many people know about that program. I didn't enlist just blindly right out of high school, and then college just kind of happened. I actually enlisted for that special program.
Okay, gotcha. That's a great program. I've never heard
Hmm.
of it before.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, if you were starting all over, maybe career wise, all over again, what advice would you give to your younger self?
uh, Probably I work too much, and just balancing more time with family would probably be the number one thing. I'm very lucky in that my family is a very strong, independent family, especially my wife. She doesn't need me to be home coddling her. Like, she's a very strong, independent woman herself. She has a PhD in physical therapy, so she works. Raised the kids with that expectation that you work hard. That's just what you do. But having said all that, definitely I could have made a little bit more time, I think, in the past for family. Maybe I didn't have to work so much. I mean, I enjoy it. I enjoy, like I
Right.
said, the respect amongst my peers that, hey, I'm working my butt off. We're here working together. If we have a good outcome with something as a project or what have you, that's what drives me, is that mutual respect that, hey, Dave was putting in his all to get a good outcome here. Like, I don't know what it is about that camaraderie amongst your peers that drives a lot of people. At least that's what drives me. I think better balance with family would be one thing.
Right. Right. Well, my next question, I think you've already answered this a couple times, which is what drives you. It sounds like camaraderie is a source of energy for you. Is that, would you say
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
true?
respect. Yeah, definitely respect from my colleagues. Just letting them, just me knowing nobody has to say anything, but just knowing that I can sense some respect, or that they know that I played an important role
Okay.
in accomplishing something. I also like lifting others up too. So
Yeah.
would love to make more time for that. But I love kind of connecting with somebody that looks like my younger self, who's got a lot of drive, who's working very hard, and invest just a little bit of time to inspire them. I mean, I remember a college professor who told me, Dave, you're a great speaker. I could see you as like leading a product team, Procter and Gamble. It's like just that one comment lifted me up so much to want to start to think about my career, and give me the confidence that, oh shoot, I didn't realize that I was good at that, and just keep putting more into that.
Got it.
So I'm trying to be mindful of how to develop others. I think that's super important.
Got it. Got it. Well, I got two more questions for you, a little bit more
Hmm.
marketing focused. People tend to watch other companies or brands in the marketplace. I'm curious if there's any that stand out to you that you track, or you're interested or intrigued by what they're doing.
Um, Maybe two. So
Yeah.
Patagonia is based in Ventura, where I live. They're kind of renowned for being a mission-based company. They're very committed to just sustainable Earth. And I just love how
Hmm.
that is so. I mean, they're a very successful company, and they've got amazing products. They get thousands of people that apply for a job every week at Patagonia. It's just an amazing culture. I think they're just very values driven. I just love how they can be so values driven and be such a successful company. And they could be even more successful maybe if they were more aggressive, but they kind of hold that line and let their mission kind of drive them as a company. So I think philosophically, really, really respect them. There's a great book I've read by their CEO, Yovanno, called Let My People Go Surfing. It talks a lot about culture within a company like that. And if you really embrace people and get them centered around a mission, you don't need to micromanage and check what time people come in and what time they leave. Like it really helps you build something great. I think that's incredibly inspiring. Maybe another company would be Booking.com, just a little bit more tech based. I don't know how many people kind of understand what has happened at a company like that. So they entered the market against the likes of Expedia and others with kind of a disruptive model, kind of a lower take rate. But I just think that how they go about building their business and growth is really all about the things that we believe in around partnerships. From what I've seen, they've yes, they've got their TV commercials that are amazing that people remember, but I think really what drives that business is partnerships. And it's hundreds of people that are all doing business development, and it's not your typical sales and marketing techniques to drive sales on Booking. So those are kind of two companies I can think of right away.
Yeah, those are great examples. And the last question for you: where do you think the future of marketing is going?
Yeah, when I think about the crisis that typical sales and marketing are under, I think most people would agree that people don't trust salespeople, and they don't trust advertising. I think Ipsos had done some research, like 82% of people do not trust salespeople. And it's like 84% of millennials don't trust advertising. That's the next big buying generation. And so what does that mean? Like when somebody calls me to sell me something, I hang up on them. Like the calls aren't getting through, emails aren't getting through, people aren't responding to salespeople. People ask you if you need help at a store. It's like they're offended. It's like, no, I don't need help. And so, and then advertising, I think is challenged. I think people just don't trust. They don't like being sold to. They can sense it right away. And then if you match that with the other trends around Google and Facebook kind of capturing all the new money, I think the biggest challenge there is all consumer time, or a lot of consumer time is going to mobile. And that's a 4.5-inch screen. And most of the time spent on that 4.5 screen is in a social feed, not looking at ads.
Right.
And so you got some real challenges there for marketing. And so I think there's going to be a heavy reliance on partnerships, but specifically influencers, right? So influencer marketing is on the rise. These are people who have an audience, they're an expert in something, and they're going to give their advice, essentially. They're going to suggest that you should check this out or buy this. And people are going to trust that more than an ad. So, and you've got your edge case, your top 1%. I'm not talking about the Kylie Jenners and that type,
Right.
so much where it's, you're paying $1 million for a post. There's a mid to long tail market that's very big once you aggregate that up. I also think back to my Patagonia example that like cause-based marketing and brands are going to connect better with customers. So as much as I'm talking about Patagonia, you've got brands like Tom's, and I just on the where they donate for every pair of shoes that you buy, they donate a pair of shoes. I just heard on the radio the other day this direct-to-consumer sock company. I can't remember the name of it, but it was a phenomenal ad. But basically, it's the same thing. Every sock.
Yeah,
that's it. That's it. That's exactly it. Yeah. I just think that's fascinating, right? And that's people are going to buy those socks before they buy kind of the standard Izod socks at Macy's that they've been buying for 20 years, just because that company is more cause driven. And that's what I think people are connecting to today. And beyond that, I think people just want a more personalized experience, right? And it's forcing marketers to kind of think, beyond traditional advertising if they tend to engage them and reach them as a modern consumer. And then marketers, I think, are still demanding trust. They really want trust. They're demanding transparency about what's working and what's not. That still needs to be solved for. Maybe the walled gardens can help with that. Our technology, by the way, has gotten very good at integrations with the walled gardens to bring those data points in and provide the transparency and the holistic measurement that they're after. But all in all, I think you're going to see new partnerships really start to emerge. we're seeing it on our platform. It's a real trend. It deserves to be broken out as its own category of focus, especially for senior leaders at an organization, because it is really starting to move the needle for business. And we're excited to be powering that trend.
That's great. That's great. Well, Dave, I've enjoyed the conversation. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. Really enjoyed it.
Hi, it's Alan again. Marketing Today was created and produced by me, with writing and editing by Kevin Greeley, social media support by Megan Woods, art and graphic design by Sarah Dell. If you're new to Marketing Today, please feel free to write us a review on iTunes or your favorite listening platform. Don't forget to subscribe and tell your friends and colleagues about the show.
I love to hear from listeners, and you can contact me at marketingtodaypodcast.com. There you'll also find complete show notes with links to anything we talk about on any episode. You can also search our archives.
I'm Alan Hart, and this is Marketing Today.